Hello, I'm Isabel Harkins. I'm with I-Rama, that's I-Rama, R-A-M-A, and I would really like to thank you guys for viewing all this. Takes a lot of effort and love. And thank Studio 519 for sponsoring this video, this podcast. And if you can please subscribe and like, if you do, because that helps the channel and helps us to keep going and bringing you more material, bringing you more, we're into giving a lot of knowledge, and I have a lot of experts that they come and visit in the podcast. So I'll put it in the bell so you get the notification. And thank you. We're going to be talking about Pranayama, and we're going to continue with the episode 3 of the Pranayama. I've been getting a lot of questions. You can do comments and also ask questions there, please, so we can answer it. We look at all the comments. Thank you very much for visiting with us. So let's talk about respiration. It's incredible what the body does. The average adult that rests inhales and exhales about 16 times per minute. When in health, that is good health. If not, the whole thing changes to much less, or sometimes much more, with anxiety, and the breath gets stuck. So each time half a liter, about a pint of air is drawn in and expelled. It's like a miracle, right? At the end of a normal exhalation, one may force out an additional liter and a half of air, leaving about an additional liter in the lungs, which cannot be forced out. After normal inhalation, one may inhale an additional 1.5 liters. As you see, it is possible to increase the amount of air inhaled and exhaled during each breath from half a liter to 3.5 liters. That's quite a bit. So we are in control of our breath. And be mindful, because that resolves so many things. Not at all of the air breath can be used by the body, because some must remain to fill the nose or mouth, sinuses, larynx, trachea, bronchi, and the large bronchus. So this is called dead air, in contrast with alveolar air, which participates in the gas exchange. The shallower the breathing, the larger becomes the percentage of dead air in each breath. But also, in shallow breathing, more impurities are retained in our system. And in the next slide, shallow breathing, on the other hand, means that the waste material in the body is not burnt up, and the result is fatigue or lack of zest for living. And a lot of the depression is connected to this kind of breathing. The blood filled with toxins gets heavy, lazy, and causes poor circulation. When your personal rhythm is disturbed, it harms you physically, mentally, and emotionally. Nervousness is simply disturbed breathing rhythm. How about that? A tense person never has the same amount of courage as the relaxed one. They stop themselves before they take any action, and they also hold their breath and breathe from the top of their chest, not their belly. In the other hand, the person whose breathing rhythm has the longest pause is the one least likely to break down under the strain of action or anxiety or overwhelm. The art of complete breathing is fundamental to the task of acquiring relaxation. It releases the nerve centers from the excessive tension that afflicts them. Deep breathing is like little notes to your body. Most breathing exercises have the effect of increasing both the amount and the percentage of air which enters actively into the purifying gaseous exchange process. The air inhaled normally consists of about 79% nitrogen, about 20% to 21% oxygen, and about 0.04% carbon dioxide, with traces of other gases and water vapor. Exhaled air often consists of about 79% nitrogen, about 16% oxygen, about 4% carbon dioxide, with traces of other gases and water vapor. Since the nitrogen content remains approximately the same, the most significant change during the breathing process is an exchange of about 4% oxygen for about 4% of carbon dioxide. Once in the lungs, oxygen is moved into the bloodstream. Blood carries the oxygen through the body to where it is needed. Red blood cells collect carbon dioxide from the body cells and transports it back to the lungs. An exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide takes place in the alveoli. These are small little structures like little sacs within the lungs. The carbon dioxide is a waste gas. It's exhaled and the cycle begins again with the next breath. Diaphragmatic breathing also refers to as a slow abdominal breathing. It's something you can do anytime and anywhere to instantly stimulate your vagus nerve and the lower stress responses associated with the fight or flight. And sometimes the most productive thing you can do is breathe. For millennia, yogis and sages from Eastern cultures have understood the importance of diaphragmatic breathing. Since the 1970s, the trailblazing efforts of mind-body through leaders such as Herbert Benson and John Kabat-Zinn have popularized the paramount importance of deep breathing as a central component of maintaining a healthy physiological balance, homeostasis, with your autonomic nervous system, which is widely accepted by Western medicine practitioners today. In 2010, an international study reaffirmed this timeless wisdom by showing that slow abdominal breathing reduces the flight or fight response of the sympathetic nervous system and could enhance vagal activity. These findings were published in the Journal of Alternative Complementary Medicine. We will add all of this as we publish all the studies, all the links, and everything that is needed for you guys to have all the new studies and research. Deep, relaxed breathing sends a message to the brain that we are safe. So important, right? Especially now that people are so stressed out and wondering what's going to happen, and the uncertainty running here and there. People forget to breathe properly. And here is a slide. It's amazing. The gas exchange process. What I just explained, the air continuing, oxygen and other gases come in the body to the lungs. In the lungs, the oxygen is moved into the bloodstream and carried through the body. Red blood cells collect the carbon dioxide and transport it back to the lungs, where it leaves the body when we exhale. And those are the little alveoli, these tiny little sacs that they do so much work when we're sleeping, when we're up, all day long. It's 24 hours since we were born, because we can't go without food for a few days. And perhaps we can go without drinking fluids or water, but we only last a few seconds without breathing. So it's crucial to do this right. Here is breathe and let go of what no longer serves you. That's in general, just take a deep breath, and as you exhale, just see whatever challenge, anxiety, or discomfort, to just live with the breath. Oxygenation. All right. As the percentage of oxygen exchange for carbon dioxide remains the same, the total amount of oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange per minute tends to increase as a graded air volume is breathed. By strenuous exercise, we increase the volume of breathing to 10 times the resting level. And when muscular exercise increases, the body needs more oxygen. Part of the aim of both deep breathing exercises and posture movements and rest is to purify, increase the ratio of oxygen to carbon dioxide, the blood and the body parts through which blood circulates. Just breathe. You will never leave this moment again. That's a really big thought for me, because this moment will be gone. Use your breath. The interchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide is possible because of the structure of the cells joining the alveoli and the capillaries, and the laws and process of gas exchange. The movement of carbon dioxide from the blood to the alveoli takes place by diffusion. In diffusion, the carbon dioxide moves from the rich side to the lean side. When the blood contains more carbon dioxide than air, the carbon dioxide will diffuse from the blood to the air. If, on the other hand, the air is rich in carbon dioxide, the diffusion of carbon dioxide from the blood to the air is inhibited. In some extreme cases, the carbon dioxide may even diffuse or flow from the air into the blood. Regulation. A group of nerve cells in the medulla oblongata in the brain The respiratory center of the brain controls the contractions of muscles used in breathing. This tiny, beautiful little gland. Inhalation takes place when the nerve cells of this group sends impulses through motor nerves to respiratory muscles. When there is an interruption, though, in this process, it prevents these cells from sending impulses. Inhalation ceases and exhalation occurs. Apparently, we do not use muscular energy and force to expel air, but merely stop inhaling, then exhaling takes place automatically. Just pay attention to that. Also, the breathing switches from one side of the nostrils to the other side through the day, depending on the time of the day and the external circumstances. A few things that cause that, but the body doesn't act automatically. So be mindful of the breath. So, because you exhale it when you stop it automatically, without any muscular effort. Since all respiratory muscles contract in harmony, some organizing process in the brain coordinates their movement. Apparently, the respiratory center cells function much like the pacemaker tissue of the heart, since they seem to induce rhythmical patterns of respiration without outside help, even though they are sensitive to various influences which modify their action. In addition to the involuntary regulation and regularization of breathing patterns, many involuntary reflexes are present, such as those noticeable in choking, that will be choking, sneezing, coughing, and swallowing. It is basically impossible to breathe while swallowing food. Other reflexes may be noted, such as sudden holding the breath when you sniff harsh chemicals, if the air supply has been cut off, you automatically will gasp for breath. These are voluntary controls of breathing. For example, you can deliberately take a deeper breath or stop breathing momentarily. We may deliberately run for such a distance that we get our second wind, and we process and proceed to breathe more easily, even though exercising strenuously. Part of the significance of distinguishing between voluntary and involuntary control of breathing is that the yogic exercises aim first at shifting unhealthy involuntary patterns voluntarily, and then establish more healthy patterns. Part of the significance of distinguishing between voluntary and involuntary control of breathing is that yogic exercises aim first at shifting unhealthy involuntary patterns voluntarily, and then establishing more healthy patterns where nervous tension produces an inhalation. What happens when you breathe? Breathing in inhalation, when you breathe in or inhale, your diaphragm contracts. It tightens. and moves downward. This action increases the space in your chest cavity, into which your lungs expand. The intercostal muscles between your ribs also help enlarge the chest cavity to contain the different amount of air inhaled. The lungs contract to pull your rib cage both upward and outward when you inhale. As your lungs expand, air is usually sucked in through your nose or mouth. The air travels down your windpipe and into your lungs. After passing through your bronchial tubes, the air finally reaches and enters the alveoli, the little air sacs that you saw before. Okay, let's see about breathing out, exhalation. When you breathe out or exhale, your diaphragm relaxes and moves upward into the chest cavity. And when we breathe out, the intercostal muscles between the ribs also relax to reduce the space in the chest cavity. As the space in the chest cavity gets smaller, air rich in carbon dioxide is forced out of your lungs and windpipe, and then out of your nose or mouth as we exhale. Breathing out requires no effort from your body unless you have a lung disease or doing physical activity that consciously promote exhalation. When you are physically active, your abdominal muscles contract and push your diaphragm against your lungs even more than usual. This rapidly pushes air out of your lungs. And here is a slide that shows the role of breathing and what happens and what the diaphragm looks like and how it functions through the whole tract of breath. So breathing out, when you breathe out or exhale, your diaphragm relaxes and moves upward, right? We talked about that, into the chest cavity. As we breathe out, the intercostal muscles between ribs also relax and help this whole entire process. Breathing out requires no effort from your body. The functions of the vagus nerve, that's so important, because when we reset the vagus nerve, all the entire system relaxes. The vagus nerve actually runs from the third ventricle of the brain all the way through all the organs. So it's the biggest nerve. And it's called vagus because in Latin it was the vagabond nerve. The vagus nerve represents the main component of the parasympathetic nervous system, which oversees a vast array of crucial bodily function. Includes control of mood, immune response, huge, right? Digestion, heart rate, sleep, reactivity. Oh my goodness, I can go on and on. Establish one of the connections between the brain and the gastrointestinal tract, and sends information about the state of the inner organs of the brain via AFFE fibers. Here we are sharing various functions of the vagus nerve It's scientifically proven and is evidence that vagus nerve stimulation is a promising add-on treatment for tremendous refractory depression, post-traumatic stress disorders, inflammatory bowel disease, among other benefits. Sleep is included. Depression is included. So many important things about this. When you own your breath, nobody can steal your peace. The vagus nerve, your body's communication superhighway. The vagus nerve starts to exit from the medulla oblongata in the groove between the arms and the inferior cerebellar peduncle. Oh my goodness, that was a tongue twister. Leaving the skull through the middle compartment of the jugular foramen. In the neck, the vagus nerve provides innervation to most of the muscles of the pharynx and the larynx, which are responsible for swallowing and vocalization. In the thorax, it provides the main parasympathetic supply to the heart, and it stimulates a reduction in the heart rate. In the intestines, the vagus nerve regulates the contraction of smooth muscles and glandular secretion. When you own your breath, nobody can steal your peace. Remember that. The vagus nerve is the 10th of 12 cranial nerves that directly extends from the brain. And according to the Encyclopedia Britannica, although we refer to the vagus nerve as singular, it's actually a pair of nerves that emerge from the left and right sides of the medulla oblongata portion of the brainstem. The nerve gets its name from the Latin word wandering, according to Merriam-Webster, which is appropriate as the vagus nerve is the largest and most widely branching cranial nerve. By wandering and branching throughout the body, the vagus nerve provides the primary control for the nervous system's parasympathetic division, the rest and digest counterpoint of the sympathetic nervous system, flight or fight response. When the body is not under stress, the vagus nerve sends commands that slows the heart and breathing rates and increase digestion. So it's the controller, he regulates. In times of stress, control shifts from the sympathetic system, which produces the opposite effect. Large divisions of the vagus nerve extend to the digestive system. About 10% to 20% of the vagus nerve cells that connect with the digestive system send commands from the brain to control muscles that move food throughout the gut. According to the textbooks, Nerves and Nerve Injuries, Volume 1, Academic Press, 2015, the movement of those muscles is then controlled by a separate nervous system embedded within the walls of the digestive system. And people have so many digestive issues. It's all related, vagus nerve and breath. In recent decades, many researchers have found that this brain-gut axis has another counterpart, the bacteria that live inside the intestines. The microbiome communicates with the brain through the vagus nerve, affecting not just food intake, but also mood and inflammation response. And it's so much inflammation and issues with that, even arthritis, osteoarthritis, so much inflammation. So according to the 2014 review published in the Journal Advances in Experimental Medicine and Biology, vagus nerve stimulation and the role of the breath goes like that. The vagus nerve is an important part of the parasympathetic nervous system, connecting to many organs such as the brain, heart, liver, and gut. Having a low vagal tone means the vagus nerve is impaired in its functioning, and is well-known cause of stress by science. This can subsequently lead to conditions such as anxiety, not only anxiety, depression, digestive problems, general inflammation. Stimulating the vagus nerve can increase vagal tone. So here is a slide that you guys can see how many things are controlled by the vagus cranial nerve. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It controls the entire system. It's incredible. So it's very important to stimulate this with breath. And it's actually now they have little devices if you want. But just humming, whistling, singing, putting something cold in front of your ears, little packs of ice or something cold right in front of both ears. It will reset the vagus nerve. Here we'll explain some natural ways for indirectly stimulating the vagus nerve. Exposing your body to acute cold condition, such as taking a cold shower or splashing cold water on your face, placing a cold pack in front of the ears on both sides. That increases stimulation of the vagus nerve. While your body adjusts to the cold, sympathetic activity declines, while parasympathetic activity increases. As you may see, this is a huge, huge deal, right? It's a huge deal to do some deep breathing. You can indirectly stimulate the vagus nerve by taking deep breath, deliberate breath from your belly, always the belly. The upper part of the body suffers in many ways. The back of the neck gets tight, your back gets tight on top. It completely tense the jaw. It's so many things by deep breathing from the top of the body. Deep belly breathing activates specific neurons that detect blood pressure. These neurons signal to the vagus nerve that blood pressure is becoming too high. And the vagus nerve in turn responds by lowering your heart rate. So think about the importance of activating the vagus nerve, right? Because it controls, it can save our life. Meditation is another great way to increase parasympathetic activity. It will bring your body in a state of calm, telling your vagus nerve there is no need for a fight or flight response, thereby increasing vagal tone. Singing, you can also use singing, humming, gargling to activate your vocal cords and the muscles in the back of your throat, which are fully connected to the vagus nerve. Incorporating these activities into your daily routine can help increase your vagal tone. The introduction to pranayama. Prana, also as prana vayu or life force, is the Sanskrit word for the energy that permeates everything in the universe. Pranayama means to increase the quantity of prana in the body. Pranayama is the method of breathing in a rhythmic way and correct fashion. While inhaling, breathing through the nostrils, the stomach, and at the same time should come outside and expand your belly. And while breathing out, the stomach should go all the way in, almost towards the back. This is the correct way of breathing. Prana means life force, noted particularly in the breath, and either I-Rama to restrain or control the prana, implying a set of breathing techniques where the breath is intentionally altered in order to produce specific results. Or the negative form of I-Rama, meaning to extend or draw out, as in extension of the life force. In the ancient Indian system of yoga, they identified prana as the universal life force or energy, which distinguishes the living from the dead. Now, that is a checking point, isn't it? Either you're alive or you're dead. Wow. Because, like I said before, without breath, we don't last but a few minutes, maybe. And it flows through thousands of subtle energy channels. They're called nadis, N-A-D-I-S, and energy centers called chakras. This original yogi, the yogi seers, observed the power of the breath to increase one's prana and develop special breathing techniques to increase life energy, maintain health, and create a calm, clear state of mind that is conducive for meditation. Prana comes into the body from the food we eat, the air we breathe, and from absorbing the energies of the earth. Prana travels through thousands of tiny little channels called nadis to every cell in the body. Relative to our physical existence, prana or vital energy is a modification of the air element, deriving primarily from the oxygen we breathe. On a subtle level, the air element corresponds to the sense of touch. Through touch, we feel alive and we are able to transmit our life force to others. Where do the sources of prana come from? We get prana from food, rest, breath, and by being in a calm, happy frame of mind. Now, the planet is not there. They're eating very, very fast. They're eating fast foods. eating, all this contaminated GMO foods, stuff with a lot of additives, not very much alive. We're talking prana in foods like fresh greens, things that you can actually buy in a farmer's market or even grow yourself. From rest, people are running around everywhere. It's not that much rest. I was doing something, or in social media, we hold the breath when we're reading. The breath is another source of prana. And by being in that calm state, which most of us are not, right? Who is happy frame all the time? Happy frame of mind. Very few people, right? There is more prana in fresh food than canned, frozen, or any kind of processed food. It really relates to life force. Similarly, vegetarian foods are said to be generally of high prana, while meat, being dead, is considered low or even negative prana. The fresher the source, the more life in it. Doesn't it make sense? Right? The whole body works with prana. The human body derives this prana through breath. As is well known fact, breath and life are considered synonyms. Breath is intimately connected with body and mind. It is the bridge allowing access to the nervous system, mind, and vital energy, prana shakti. Breath, body, and mind are all energized by the vital life energy. This vital energy is itself activated by the subtle body, Taijasya Sarira. At the ultimate end is soul or consciousness. Russian scientists Mr. Agnew and Mrs. Valentina Kirlian developed this technique of photographing this energy, and it can be seen by anyone in photograph and also electron microscopes. In a single day, we breathe about 2,300 times. Average volume of air taken in a single breath ranges from a half to a liter with proper attention. This volume can be increased up to 4 to 5 liters. We can increase the capacity of breathing in 5 times the oxygen that we normally breathe, and breathing out carbon dioxide much faster. However, we can train ourselves to breathe more slowly and deeply. That will work. The rate can easily be reduced from 4 to 5 breaths per minute. A slower breath rate results in reductions of wear and tear in the entire body. So it's so important. This affects everything. Less work for the heart and the entire system. It reduces high blood pressure and a quieted nerves, among other benefits. Pranayama is always best to perform on an empty stomach. Thousands of years ago, it was discovered that the quantity and quality of prana and the way it flows through the nadis, subtle energy channels, is a great way to determine one's state of mind. When we are stressed, we hold our breath and breathe from the top of our chest instead of our belly. Due to lack of awareness about this fact, the energy channels in the average person may be partially blocked, making the flow of prana broken and inefficient. This results in increased worry, fear, uncertainty, conflict, tension, and other negative emotions. When the prana level is high, it flows continuously, smooth and steady. By this action, the mind is calm, positive, enthusiastic, and our state is relaxed. It is the true power of prana that the ear hears, the eye sees, the skin feels, the tongue can taste, the nose can smell, and the brain and the intellect perform their functions. Imagine that. So much to the breath. Whenever you behold in the sense world, whatever moves or works as life is the expression or manifestation of prana energy. The 5 types of prana in the body are prana, apana, udana, samana, and vyana. Prana is force, magnetism, and electricity, that which causes the emotion of breath in lungs is prana. It is prana that pumps the blood from the heart into the arteries and blood vessels. Through prana, digestion, excretion, and secretion takes place. Prana aids to digest the food. Wow, so many issues with digestion, right? And it turns it into lymphatic fluid and blood. This process sends it to the brain. Prana is expanded by thinking, willing, acting, moving, talking, writing, creating, being in nature, etc. A healthy, strong person has an abundance of prana, or nerve force or vitality. And this is supplied by food, water, air, solar energy, and so on. The supply of prana is taken up by the nervous system. The prana in the air is absorbed by breathing. The essence is stored in the brain and nerve centers in the form of spiritual energy. Prana is the energy in the upper part of the body, in the region above the heart. If prana is too high or is imbalanced, you can't sleep. It's billions of dollars going into sleeping aids and selling sleeping pharmaca drugs and things that they actually have consequences or side effects. If somebody really needs and is under the supervision of a doctor, all is well. But I know people that even live in NyQuil and things that they can actually get in the drugstore, which they cause so much issues with the rest of the body. Apana Vayu is the energy in the lower part of the body. If apana is too high, then you feel lethargic, sleepy, and dull. Samana Vaji is in the stomach region. It aids digestion. Udana Vaju is in the upper chest and throat union. And in this region, the Udana Vaju is responsible for emotions. If Udana Vaju is imbalanced, you have no emotions, you become hard and disconnected, or you become too mushy and not present. Vayana is all over the body, and it is responsible for movements in the joints, the circulation in the body. If Vayana Prana is disturbed, then the circulatory system is disturbed. Your joints are not flexible. There are aches and pains. There are 172,000 nadis of prana channels which function in our body. That's stunning to me. It's incredible. Difference between pranayama and breathing exercise. When the breath wanders, the mind is unsteady. But when the breath is still, so the mind is still. In non-conscious normal respiration, the air is taken in through the nostril without any special effort of sound or aware movement of the nose or chest. We just breathe day in and day out. The first thing we did when we came to the world was breathe. And the last thing we're going to do when we leave our body is the last breath. In short, it is done unconsciously. We're not even aware of air traveling through our nostrils, down the nasal and oral parts of the pharynx, of its reaching the larynx, and then the trachea and the lungs. That is quite a process, don't you think? In general, most of us are unaware of how the breathing process works. All of this also is controlled by the subconscious mind. Pranayama is traditionally conceived, involves much more than merely breathing for relaxation. Pranayama is a term with a wide amount of meanings. Patanjali defines pranayama as the regulation of the incoming and outgoing flow of breath with retention. Pranayama also denotes cosmic power or the power of the entire universe, which manifests itself as conscious living throughout the action of living. We are going to end this podcast in this slide. This is part 3 of pranayama, and we will continue with the rest. At the end of the last podcast, you can download this ebook that I put together so you can go through it anytime you want, or use it or share it, whatever you need. I really thank you for being here. Please remember to comment, tell us where you are coming from and watching from, and like and subscribe. Get that little bell, which I didn't know for a while, that I needed to press it so I get notifications when new podcasts come along. Thank you so much. In my name and in the name of Studio 519 and I-Rama.com.